How you doing? This is Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Scripture Corner. I actually tried to record this about a week and a half ago, and after a morning hunt, I got set up in my car and was going to record this, and then my video camera started to, it started to go bright white, and I was like, okay, what is going on here? I tried repositioning the camera and it just kept getting worse. So the camera started to fail on me, basically. And I was thinking, either the evil one is trying to prevent me from recording this episode, or God's trying to tell me I need a new video camera. And since I don't have the money to get a new camera, I'm guessing it's the first one. So I got the camera's working right now. Hopefully we'll eventually be able to replace it. But we're going to continue on with Galatians chapter 1. I'm using my New Oxford Annotated Bible here. And I just want to do verse 10 because there's a couple things I want to kind of talk about from this verse. And it says, this is Paul talking, "Am I now seeking human approval or God's approval? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still pleasing people, I would not be a servant of Christ." Let me read that again. Am I now seeking human approval or God's approval? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still pleasing people, I would not be a servant of Christ. I wanted to offer a reflection on this, and again, a lot of the focus of this whole thing is personal growth. And so I wanted to draw out a point from that, and you might have something different stand out to you when you read this passage. But when it talks about, am I still trying to please people or am I trying to please God? Obviously, he's trying to please God, and a lot of us are who are trying to live our life for God. I want to draw this out, though. There's a difference between making a willful choice to do something and reacting and doing something. So, for instance, I might say, I'm making a personal choice to never lie ever again. And then I could be in a conversation and somebody asks me something and I just react and say something that isn't fully true. Have you ever done that? I know I have at times. And for the person who's trying to live for God, you might stop and say, well, why did I do that? What happened here? And the bottom line is, what really is going on is we have an aspect of ourselves that is fallen human nature, which means we're prone to sin or inclined to sin, even if it wasn't our intention to sin. And the way that we work on those things and improve on those things is to make a willful choice to work on those things. So, for example, take the situation where you're in a conversation or somebody just asks you something, puts you on the spot, you get nervous, and then you just say something, that you didn't mean. What you need to do is actually take some time to recognize that about yourself and say, okay, how can I respond better next time, or respond righteously or correctly or honestly? And it may take you learning how to not react, but just take a deep breath and be like, okay, I'm nervous right now. And normally this is where I just react and say whatever to get the person off my back or whatever the person might want to hear. And that takes an effort. So when I read this, I want to draw out a point that although we might, or if you want to live your life for God, it doesn't automatically mean you're perfect or that you're going to do everything perfectly. You may have an infraction against righteousness. You might have somebody ask you to do something or ask you a question, and you might just react and say something to make yourself sound good, make yourself sound better, or make it sound a little more favorable to your situation, whatever. Think about that. Think about those instances in your life and pull them out and look at them and say, okay, how can I train myself to respond better? And that, my friends, is what I think the path of holiness is, because, I think God, His grace does enable us to do a lot of things, but He also challenges us and wants us to make willful choices to improve. And that takes a focused effort on our part. If we're not focusing on these things and intentionally working on them, they're not going to be improved. You know what I mean? God allows us to maintain an aspect of our fallen humanity, even though He gives us grace and enables us to be better people than we previously were. There's still work to be done with our own choices in the matter. And so as you go through this week, as you sit in the tree stand, I'm encouraging you to ponder this passage, and how I brought out the point of, just because we live for God and when we intentionally try to not please people, we try to please God, that doesn't mean we're going to be perfect. We might still need to work on some things. And what are those areas that we can be more aware of so that we can hold back from saying something that we shouldn't, and with courage force ourselves to say something that might be difficult to say. So there you go. Ponder that. Galatians 1:10, and the idea of making that choice to always be righteous even when it's difficult, where you might otherwise have normally habitually said something that wasn't fully correct. All right, go for it. God bless.